How do you compete selling subscriptions when somebody else is out there giving away value for free? Training, they have YouTube videos, information, you're competing against AI, software, you're competing against folks vibe coding software on the weekends. If you've got a paid community, there's thousands of free groups out there. And all of us within the subscription business has seen those cancellation reasons where they say, found a cheaper alternative. And so the response makes perfect sense. Add more value, more content, more features, more functionality, or lower the price. Except there's another approach hiding in plain sight. There's a subscription company called MDVIP, and it asks subscribers to pay between $2,000, $3,500, or even $5,000 a year for something that they largely have otherwise, a doctor. Yeah, and that fee doesn't replace their insurance premiums, deductibles, co-pays. It's actually on top of them. Yet hundreds of thousands of people subscribe. So now we have a problem. If people will pay thousands of dollars for something that they'd already otherwise have access to, then maybe we're asking the wrong question about how to compete against free. Hidden in plain sight within the MDVIP listing of benefits are two huge advantages that they have implemented that enable them to compete. And once you see them, you'll realize that your biggest competitor isn't free. It's that your subscription hasn't given your subscriber enough reason to make price stop being the point of comparison. That's what we're here to investigate. Welcome to another episode of Be Unleavable Investigations, answering the question, why are some subscription businesses indispensable while others remain easy to leave? Think about the psychology of buying an expensive subscription. There's an awkward period immediately after you say yes. You are persuaded enough to buy, but you're not persuaded enough to stay. Those are very different things. Your credit card has gone through for the initial charge, but somewhere in the back of your mind is the question, was this a good decision? Now let's look at the early MDVIP experience. A member can receive a substantial wellness assessment with labs, screenings, diagnostic, and a much deeper conversation about health and lifestyle. Whatever terminology we use for that experience, what's interesting to me is what it does to the psychology of the subscriber. It gives the subscriber evidence early. The member doesn't have to wait 6 months and hope that something happens that makes it feel worthwhile. There's an opportunity to experience, oh, this is different right away. And that led me to a question that I think is more important than asking whether or not your onboarding is good. You can have a new subscriber that completes your entire onboarding sequence, opens every email, and still is wondering, why did I buy this? And you can have another subscriber who hasn't completed half your onboarding checklist, but has already had one experience that makes them think, this is for me. I can't imagine life without this. Those are two very different subscribers. One appears to have ticked off all your high engagement checklists, but the other is actually retained for life. So the first element of competing for free isn't more. It's speed to certainty. And it's something that I covered in my book, Retention Point. How quickly can you get the subscriber to see meaningful evidence that their decision was different from all the other alternatives that they have been already tolerating? That's important. But it still doesn't fully explain the MDVIP mystery. So let's keep looking. Let's consider the MDVIP relationship on day 3. The physician is getting to know them. There are records, test results, a medical history, but it's a new relationship. Now let's move forward 3 years. What exists now that didn't exist on day 3? Well, there's history within text exchanges. There's context of an ongoing relationship. The physician has seen changes over time, and you've discovered that you can depend on your doctor or her nurse to return a text or reach out to the pharmacy on your behalf when you're in a bind. Trust has had time to develop. And is that something that another provider could replace easily? If the member heard about another doctor, would they be interested in visiting them and saving a couple of $1,000s and losing all that context, losing that relationship? Probably not. And that's the clue. The subscription isn't merely delivering value again and again. An important part of the value is compounding. And once you see that, the question changes. Answer this question for your own subscription company. What does your 3-year subscriber have that your 3-day subscriber doesn't? Not what have you delivered to them over 3 years. What do they have now because those 3 years happened? History, data, personalization, relationships, trust, progress, preferences, community relationships, a workflow built around you, institutional knowledge, accumulated results, something else? What is compounded? Because if the answer is not much, we need to investigate that. If your subscription business has spent the last 3 years delivering value without it accumulating value and compounding for the subscriber, that creates a strategic vulnerability. The customer relationship resets every billing cycle, and a free competitor only needs to recreate this month's value to displace your paid subscription. But what if your subscriber's value compounds with tenure? Now the comparison changes. The competitor isn't merely competing against your current product. They're competing with the subscriber's accumulated relationship with your company. That's much harder. The goal is to design deliverables that makes retaining your subscription increasingly more valuable. So let's get back to the mystery. How does a subscription company charge thousands of dollars for something that consumers already have access to? Well, there are 2 important ways that MDVIP does that. First, the subscriber gets meaningful evidence quickly enough to become certain the decision was worthwhile. And second, the subscriber advantages compound through the relationship. Now suddenly free isn't quite the competitor we thought it might be. So if a subscription CEO calls me today and tells me, I've got a free competitor taking my subscribers, what should we add? I'd ask, how long does it take to get a new subscriber to become certain that this was the right decision, to get them to say, this is for me? And what does a 3-year subscriber have that a 3-day subscriber doesn't? Those questions are the questions worth asking. And for your next team meeting where you're discussing how to stop so many subscribers from churning, I've actually created a 2-page cheat sheet to get your subscriber to certainty early in the relationship and to compound your value so that every year your subscription becomes more valuable and less susceptible to free or low price competitors. You can get that at beunleavable.com/investigations. And this is just the beginning of our investigation, because over the next 12 episodes, we're going to examine this question from every part of the subscriber journey. Why are some subscription businesses indispensable while others remain easy to leave? We're going to dive into positioning, offers, conversion, onboarding, pricing, communication, retention, deliverables, community, tiers, dashboard, and all the rest. Not as 12 separate tactics, but as 12 pieces of one relationship. And our next investigation starts before anybody actually ever becomes a subscriber. Because if you attract the wrong person with the wrong promise, can anything you do later make that relationship be unleavable?